Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, GordoGambles. Welcome back to another full card breakdown, this time for Dana White Contender Series week number 10. That's it, guys. The last week of the season. It's been a fun one. I've had the opportunity to break it down with very, very sharp dudes all year long, and I'm sad it's coming to an end. And although it hasn't been the most, let's say, profitable, there's some wild times, but there's been a very, let's say, monumental season. Lots of people signed, lots of great prospects coming in, a lot of people we can fade too in the future. All in all, just a great experience. And I was really fortunate to break it down with these two guys. Without further ado, let's get them in here one more time. First off, NarcoCop, man, the brand new background, looking fresh. Were you signed, man? Is this your walkout?
Yeah, Dana White sent me a little letter home and said, hey, you know what? We need you here. So, yeah, I'm getting myself ready. I just got out of the gym. I signed my new coach, Liam, for some jiu-jitsu. So I'm ready to go.
Well, then you're definitely in good hands there. Let's bring him in here. How you doing, Mr. Jiu-Jitsu coach? Am I next on that list? You going to come to Canada and teach me anything?
I'm certainly unqualified, underqualified, but appreciate the compliment and the kind words. Glad to see you're on your own jiu-jitsu journey. I got to haul my own ass to practice and keep learning. So, yeah, man, every day is a journey in that regard. And just excited to break down these last crop of fights with you guys. We got a good slate here and a lot of jiu-jitsu to talk about as well. A lot of black belts, some brown belts. So should be a good night of fights to discuss.
Of course, tomorrow night, as you guys know, 5 fights headlined by the one and only Bo Nickal. But aside from that, let's say steep price tag, we have some very good fights in this card. I think it is a pretty chalky one, but no better guys to break it down with than these two right here. I'm very happy to have you guys on once again. So thank you for joining me. Without further ado, let's pull up these odds. Let's see what kind of bets we have. Of course, we're here a bit earlier than usual. We got some Monday Night Football to watch later. We can talk about that at the end. But right now, we got 5 fights, and these are 5 fights that we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump right into it. First fight of the night, I'm going to butcher this one. Ajim, 6-1 versus Mateus Mendonca, 9-0. It's a pretty fun fight, and this is actually the only official play I have so far. I got my eye on a bunch of these lines, but there's only one official play I've locked in for this card, and it's on this fight right here. But who would I be if I wouldn't let my guest go first? Liam, Jiu-Jitsu coach. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, this should be a very interesting fight. The things that I liked, obviously, on the Mendonca side, he's coming out of Shootbox Diego Lima. It's the same gym as Charles Oliveira. And, he looks like he's a very physical guy. A lot of times he was able to get on top of his opponents on the regional scene. I think that would serve him well to try and do here. We haven't really seen Ajim tested in that realm all that much, but I have some suspicions myself based on, what I would deem as a little bit of lack of physicality on his own wrestling attempts. When he was struggling in some of his fights and hurt, the Chris Mutino fight comes to mind especially, but other fights as well where he kind of got buzzed a little bit and tried to initiate the clinch. He was kind of getting bullied around in those positions. He looked like he might not have the same level of physicality. Trains with Long Island MMA, plenty of good wrestlers, Strong Island, stand up, New York in the building. But I do think that there's a lot to be desired on the tape. The Mutino fight kind of just seemed like he slowed down a little bit, seems to be very hittable, a little bit green, maybe can't mix up the game all that well. I think Mendonca is probably going to be able to take it to more realms of the fight, probably mix in his own takedowns, get on top here, and potentially find a finish that way. Yeah, that's kind of how I envision the fight going down. I think that he's going to need to get takedowns here to make it clean for himself because I don't think either one of these guys has lights out defense. I saw both of them get rocked in their regional footage. And so for that reason, am I like super fired up about laying chalk on him? No. Do I think he wins the fight? Yeah, I do think he wins the fight.
All right, I don't mind that one. And Narco, there's a reason I let Liam go first, man. I saw the lines come out a little bit late, but I saw them come out. I locked in my play. I was super happy about it. Check Bet MMA tips, and someone has a better line than me. That is Narco. This man is always on top of the lines. I think we see eye to eye on this one. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, man. I see violence, honestly. When you watch these two guys, we said the same thing. They have clashing styles. Mendonca is an absolute savage. He's a madman. He's coming forward. He's throwing big punches, mainly to get in, to try to get you down. He looks pretty strong, like Liam said. And there's a lot of question marks, honestly, with Ajim as far as his ground game. Like, I went through almost all his tape and couldn't come up with anything for this guy on the ground. He had a couple of, times where the people shot on him and he had decent takedown defense, but very low level opponents. Nowhere near as strong as Mendonca looks, and obviously nowhere near as the jiu-jitsu that this guy has too. Because I do think Mendonca has pretty good jiu-jitsu as well. I believe he's a black belt. On the feet, I kind of agree with Liam again, man. Like, these guys are both there to be hit. I will give Ajim the power advantage here. He seems to have a lot of power in his hands. A lot of knockouts as you look at his record. He hurt Moutinho and dropped Moutinho pretty bad and kind of did the walk away, which was really weird. That fight honestly could have ended had he went after Moutinho instead of knocking. I mean, that knockdown was pretty bad. He knocked him down pretty bad, but then walked away, and the referee didn't stop the fight. And he's like, fight, and he let him recover. If he goes after him after he knocks him down like that, fight might have been over with just a couple of follow-up shots. So Ajim has a ton of power. Mendonca is reckless on the feet. So, you know, under here, under 2.5, minus 150, I got minus 185. I honestly think this fight is not getting there, man. One way or another, Mendonca is just a guy that's going to try to kill you. Ajim as well can kill him on the feet, because we've seen Mendonca get hurt in the Nobre fight at the end, and also in another fight. I don't remember which one, but he got dropped in another fight where coincidentally he got dropped, and then he came back and eventually, I believe, finished the guy, but he took him down after he got dropped. So
I think it's Paulo Henrique, and I believe it's like a 1-round crazy war, if I'm thinking of the same fight you're thinking of.
Yeah, you're right. Henrique comes like chucking big bombs, hurts him. Then he proceeds to get a takedown and eventually finishes Henrique. So yeah, man, I like the under here. I was hoping I can get like little bit of a better price on submission. We didn't. Like, it was 350. I want a little bit more because Mendonca kind of likes going after like ground and pound a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fault anybody for, taking Ajim by KO. I think that's probably his path. He's not winning like some grappling match here. So, yeah, I mean, I like violence right now.
And like I said, only bet of the card so far is on violence as well. I did not get minus 150 like Narco did, but I picked up the minus 65. Right now, minus 185. I love that spot. If there's one spot I could bet on the card, it'd be violence in this very first fight. This is one where it brings me back to my DFS roots. This is a fight you'd target on DraftKings if they did come out. You have a guy who is, his path to victory is an early finish. I'm not a fan of the cardio on the Ajim side. On the other side of things, though, it's a gym side. Sorry. On the other side of things, Mendoza is a guy who will come forward. Although he can be hit, he's going to have the aggression. He's going to have the cardio. He's going to have the grappling. He's going to have the wrestling. He has a lot of advantages, but it's really hard for me to have so much confidence in a guy who will get hit versus a guy facing a guy in a gym who has that power to knock almost anybody's lights out. He throws with so much power, so much conviction. And although he isn't the best technical fighter, both on the ground or on the feet, he has the ability to put people's lights out. And that's what you want to see. I think he goes out there and he spends himself in that first round. I think it's a pretty simple fight. I think it's either Ajim first round KO or Mendonca's going to win this fight inside the distance, not only relying on that cardio advantage, maybe also some grappling later on. I think he's able to break Ajim down the stretch. So it's pretty easy. If you want to bet Mendonca, you can do that. No problem. I'm all over that. I know Papa Chuck's talking about a parlay right there. I don't mind that. If you need to hedge or anything, I think that I might also play some Ajim round 1 plus 900. Was plus 1,000. It's a spot where I think that is his path to victory. I think he gets melted if it goes past round 1. Either way, violence is the way to go. The first and only locked in play so far, again, have my eye on others, but the only locked in play so far right now is at under 2.5. I am loving that this week. Now, Mushroom asking under 2.5 or under 1.5. I did not see under 1.5. I got the under 2.5. I'd even play the under 1.5 if that's juiced. I wouldn't mind either. I think this is a very, very short night at the office for either one, either Ajim going out there, expending himself early on, or getting that finish. Anyways, let's move on to the next fight of the evening. Before we do so, we have to say a shout out to everybody hanging out here. We have Chad Powers himself, Mr. Manning. He's saying think fast, run fast. Oh, hello to you, Chad Powers. And then, of course, Mushroom in there, as always. Appreciate you, Mushroom, and Grateful Dude. He's being grateful, as always. I appreciate him and everybody else in the chat. Let's keep it moving. Next fight up, we have ourselves a fun little scrap at 125 pounds. Rafael Ramos Estevam versus João Elias. This is one where I just went to Liam first, but because he is the king of Stop Brazilian Hate, I'm going to go to him again. What is your thought in this matchup, my friend?
Yeah, man, this is a great matchup on paper. And the reason being is, if I'm not mistaken, I left my notes in the other room, but I believe that this is the double black belt matchup. Am I correct in saying that?
No, Esteves is a brown belt, but I mean, he's really good. Yeah.
Okay. So either way, two guys here, both very talented at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, tattooed Jiu-Jitsu across his chest, my man. So you know he's a lifer. If he doesn't have the black belt yet, he will in time. And then Elias on the other side, you know, you watch this guy's fights. He's basically trying to get on top of people and armbar them. You know, he could throw ground and pound from on top. He can be physical and kind of bully guys in the clinch. He can get to the mount and throw some ground and pound. But he's trying to get to that armbar position. That seems like his favorite go-to finish. On the other side, Estevam seems like the kind of guy who outlasts people. You know, he's going to try and take people down, get on top of them, pass the guard. What I liked is that he was able to stay on top of it in a lot of his fights. A couple times he would get bucked off, kicked off, but a lot of times he spent on top, controlling people, frustrating them. And then when they would get back to their feet, he would not just instantly shoot back on their legs. He would touch, get inside, get the range a little bit, and then fire off a couple attacks. He's been fighting since he was really young. So I think that a lot of that bodes to his advantage. He seems like a pretty natural fighter. And he just looks to me like the guy who's a little bit more fluid in his movements. You know, I saw even on the scale today, Elias, he's like raising his arms. Everything looks like it's kind of in slow motion. I have my questions and my doubts about whether or not he's going to be able to keep up any kind of pace over 15 minutes. He's very muscle bound. He's very short, stocky, capped shoulders. Looks like he's on all sorts of steroids. So God bless him for it. Wish him the best. But I'm going to have to go on the Estevam side here. I think he gets the job done. And potentially by submission.
Ooh, Esteban by submission. There we go. Now, Narco, if people aren't following Narco on Twitter, tell them what they're missing, my friend, because I did see you tweet out something.
Yeah, I'm on the Elias side, honestly. I got plus 186. I tweeted it out, but somehow a friend of mine texted me. He's like, hey, get 196 now. FanDuel moved it up to 196. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I hit 196 as well. And then all of a sudden it shot down to 164. So, I mean, this line's been coming down. Not that I favorite Elias a lot. I think this fight is a lot closer than what the line suggests, in my opinion. I think Elias, very aggressive, shown good cardio. When you watch the fight against Bruno Correa, back and forth fight where I honestly had him winning that fight. Somehow they gave it a majority draw. I don't know how, but you could see at the end, Bruno Correa was kind of happy with the draw, while Elias was extremely upset with the draw. So if reaction was to tell you who won, I think Elias won that fight. But the thing that I see here that I really like is I just think like Elias is a little bit better on the ground from what I see. Esteves is heavier on top, looks like the better like wrestler. But man, Elias is super, super dangerous, man. And anytime he was on his back, he always reverse positions on a bunch of these guys. Just by going for subs, like even, you know, going for the legs, whatever it may be, so he can get back on top. He did. And I just feel like Esteves' game is the ground game. I think he's playing against another person's big strength in Elias. So for me, I think it's a closer fight. I do like Esteves' game as well. I think both guys have very good regional wins as well and haven't faced like a cupcake type of regional opposition. So with that being said, you know, I was getting a number where I just felt like was a little bit off at that point. So I went with the underdog here. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Esteves wins. Like he's a very good fighter himself. Again, I took the Joe Elias. I also think on the feet, Elias has more power. Esteves he does throw, and like Liam said, he goes touch to try to get you to the ground. He really doesn't sit down on his punches, trying to get you out of there. He's more about taking you down and just kind of wearing you out and ground pounding you, even submitting you. So with that being said, I like Elias. I also took a little bit of a poke on the KO at plus 1,200. I just think that line is a little bit too crazy. Yeah, when you look at Elias, he doesn't have a lot of knockouts on his record, but the guy throws with a ton of power on the feet. So I'm gonna take a little shot on that KO and Elias side.
Yeah, for me, this is a fight where there is going to be a lot of fun scrambles. I think it's going to be a fight that primarily takes place on the ground. And with that being said, do I see a guy having a major advantage to the point where he should be lined where he is at minus 200? I don't necessarily see that. I think it's going to be a very close fight so for you to get someone at that plus 196 mark, don't blame you at all. For me, I'm more still looking at the prop market. And actually, I'm kind of with Mushroom here. I think that the over is set way too low. I think it should be a 2.5 round total. So I probably will be taking a stab at the over 1.5. I'm not one who typically likes to play overs, but when you have a situation here, we have two really good ground fighters who primarily have their win by submissions. And then on the feet, I don't see much power coming from the favorite Estevan side, but he is going to have that reach advantage. I just see a grapple affair, one that's going to take place majority on the ground. I think they have their talents enough to withstand the onslaught and really stay out of these dangerous positions. So for me, it's going to be who's going to get the more control time. And when I am picking a winner in this spot, I think it's really close. I don't think I could get there in the minus 200 in Estevan, but when we're looking at the reach, the height, the better camp, I do think that goes to the Estevan side. So for me, gun to my head, I'm taking Estevan to win this fight. However, I do not think there's any value on the line. Instead, I think it more so go towards the total, maybe the over 1.5. With that being said, not necessarily going to get there yet. I am looking at it. Maybe we'll see what it opens up on other books. Probably will have warrant a play for me, but nothing yet. All right.
That plus 190 goes to decision is kind of interesting.
Yes, I was looking at that too, but then I got to factor in, you know what, the extended cardio and the scrambles, and I didn't see too much of that. So I don't know. Did you see anything that you would warrant any cardio deficiencies on your end?
Not real. That I think they both have pretty good cardio. Like Elias, like I said, he went 3 hard rounds with Korea, and I think Estevez has his cardio.
Estevan, I know, has decent cardio.
Yeah, has pretty much checked out too. So I looking at over. It's kind of weird because the over 1.5 is minus 165, but the fight goes, plus 190. So they're saying one of these guys kind of finishes late, is basically what the market is telling us. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like it's a little bit off.
And you guys know me, I'm not an overs guy, especially I'm dealing with my Contender series. I'm all about those unders, all about that violence, but I have to change things up. I don't mind that fight goes to decision either. We'll have to see, again, how it opens up on other books. Look at all the empty space we got here. But if this is the indicator, this is what we're getting right now, I don't mind that, but I definitely will have a shot of this come fight time tomorrow. All right. Almost halfway there. Next fight up is also a very, very fun one. We have Linares 8-1, Jack Jenkins 9-2. This is a really, really fun scrap. Let's get those odds showing up right here. And we've seen some decent line movement here as well. So Jack Jenkins now the bigger favorite, and I got to ask you, Narco, we're passing it to you first. Do you think that is warranted for the Australian?
Man, you know what? He looks good. He looks good on the feet. His striking looks good. He looks strong. He kind of reminds me of Jack Della Maddalena, to be honest. He's got crisp striking. He's got very good leg kicks. I mean, watching his fight, it's so weird. A lot of his fights get ended by leg kicks. He must hit really, really hard with his calf kicks. And he has very crisp boxing. And why I say he looks like Maddalena is because he loves working the body. He's very tight with his punches. He doesn't overthrow a lot. But there is some questions with his grappling, to be honest. I don't know, how good he is when he's on his back. He was on his back against, who was it? Jesse Medina the first time around. He did get subbed, but he was on top when he got subbed because he reversed position. But looking at Emiliano Linares, he literally reminds me of the guy. I can't remember his name, but the guy that won like a couple of weeks ago. I think he was like from Ecuador as well. We had a lot of question marks because we didn't have a lot of tape of the guy. He was away. He eventually won. I forgot his name. If you guys can remind me, go right ahead. But he gives me those vibes.
Marcos?
Who was it?
I know Marcos is an Ecuadorian, but he's the guy who comes to mind.
Yeah, it's probably him, the guy that won against the I don't remember who he faced, but he was an underdog and he came in and won and he looked really good. And now we're kind of getting like, I'm kind of getting similar vibes with this guy here. Linares, you know, he's fought very, very low level opposition, all regionally. The difference between Linares and this other guy is that other guy was training in a very good camp of late, and Linares really hasn't. But he shows pretty decent striking. He shows pretty decent jiu-jitsu. He's a purple belt. You see him like in his Instagram, he's grappling a lot. He's going to be the much longer guy here. He's in and out. He has like the little karate style. I really don't know what side to take here, to be honest. I think Jack Jenkins wins. I think he's the better boxer. But honestly, when I first opened up the props, I looked at submission for Linares and it was plus 1,000. I hit it immediately because he has gone for a lot of submissions in his fights when you watch him. And Jenkins, we just don't know. And the one thing I will say is Jenkins, in his 2 losses, has been subbed in both losses. In other fights, he's got himself in like kind of weird predicaments on the ground. And Linares is pretty good on the ground when he goes for subs. So I took a shot on that plus 1,000. It's plus 1,800 now. I still think that has like some meat on the bone. Other than that, I can't lay like minus 250 with a guy that's like just a straight boxer. That's all really Jack Jenkins does.
All right, fair. I'm going to pass this one over to Liam next, purely because, sorry for some NFL news. I know it's a UFC show, but Dalton Schultz is out, so I got a fantasy lineup to adjust. Go ahead, Liam. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, this is one that I'm definitely going to be doing a little bit more tape study, especially on the side of the underdog here. I definitely looked into to Jack, and what I came away with was actually like he feels like a cut rate version of Volk to me. And what I mean by that is like, and don't get me wrong, I'm the one who's been saying for a very long time I think Volk's the best fighter on the planet, right? But I don't think this guy is that. I just think he kind of emulates his style. You know, he goes out there, he tries to keep it pretty basic with the hands, not get overextended. You know, he fires some body work, he mixes up his levels a little bit. And on top of that, I think that he likes to mix in his leg kicks. Narco commented on the fact that he's finished a couple of these guys regionally with his low kick game. So he's kicking the legs very hard and then trying to punch you. Seems like a pretty decent skill set, you know, pretty modern MMA game. And then on top of that, I thought his sprawl and brawl game looked pretty good overall. Obviously, when he was on his back, that's where the questions are. I'm just not positive this opponent's going to be able to take him there. You know, he's got a lower center of gravity, Jack Jenkins, and he's a pretty built, physical-looking guy. You know, he looked smaller than his opponent today. Keep in mind, I believe Jack didn't have his shoes on and his opponent did. So his opponent looked like he was like 5 inches taller. I was like, oh, my God. But then I looked a little bit closer. You know, I think that Jack's going to be able to hold his own from a physicality standpoint. A lot of the takedowns that I was seeing from Linares in the short tape study I did, I probably watched 2 or 3 of his fights. It looked like they were coming from strength and physicality. It looked like they were not coming against very good grapplers. You know, he's barreling guys over with his head in the chest and like hitting half-hearted knee picks, and guys were just flying over to their back. I don't think that's going to fly here. I think he's going to need to be a little more sophisticated with his takedown entries. So for those reasons, I understand why Jack is favored. Don't have the confidence really in Jack based on what I've seen. You know, Eternal MMA is kind of hit or miss at times. So I'm not really sure what to make of his quality of opposition. I think this is a good proving test. But the other thing is, you know, somebody came in, what's his name? Jack Della, right? Where we all kind of said the same thing, I'm sure, at the time. Like, yeah, this guy looks good. He looks like he's a boxer, you know, but he's coming out of Australia. I don't know if I could believe in this guy. And then he's got 2 wins in the UFC. He's like the biggest prospect. Everybody's in love with the guy, you know. So that's the kind of thing for me where it could be, you know, hindsight. People are like, oh, my God, minus 220 was a discount. But I also think there's a reason that Dana White Contender Series is more volatile. Linares, what we do know about him, he's a big physical kid. He looks like he's got some athletic promise. So I don't really want to stand in front of him with, you know, a huge 70% chalk indication. But I think Jack Jenkins might be the side, honestly.
Yeah, and with that indication, I kind of wanted to get towards the underdog in Linares. I just don't know how much my heart could take watching a guy who gets hit so often face a guy in Jack Jenkins. Jack Jenkins is shown to be really, really crisp, and although his primary game is a boxer with some strong leg kicks, I wasn't, not, let's say, scared away by his ground game. I think he's going to be able to keep it upright, especially by a guy in Linares. Someone in the UFC, I'll be able to expose him a bit, but I think Jenkins should be able to roll here. And you're facing a guy in Linares who's going to eat so many punches with his face. You got to think that eventually he may crumble here. So I don't mind Jack Jenkins. I think he wins this fight at a pretty high clip. Plus 275 for the KO. I think that is also a path to victory, but to me, it's hard to really find value. I wish I got in on the minus 160. I'd play that for sure. If it keeps coming up, I'll play some Jenkins. I think he wins this fight at a pretty high clip. I'm going to predict him to win by KO. However, you never know, right? I do think that he is the guy they're trying to promote here. So give me Jenkins, and it should be a fun scrap all in all. With that, guys, we have 2 fights remaining. And as I switch over to these odds, this is the perfect time to tell you, please like the video down below, subscribe to the channel. That'd be much appreciated, because we got ourselves, what, a 6'4" lightweight coming up here? All right. We got Sam Patterson, 9-1-1. Vinicius Sensei, 7-1. We'll let you kick this one off, Narco. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, interesting fight here. Patterson, like you mentioned, 6'4" at lightweight. Holy Moses. But Sensei, not small himself. When you look at the face-offs, like, he looks every bit of about 6'1", 6'2" himself. So he's not a small guy for lightweight. So, really interesting fight. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Do you want me to mention it or not? It's up to you, Gordo.
You go for it. I need to hear you talk this one out.
All right. So I don't even want to talk about what I have here on this fight, because I have an early bet. It doesn't matter at this point. But I didn't do any tape when I made this bet. And when they first opened up, it was plus 260 on Sensei. Now, when I just scrolled through his Instagram, I instantly looked up and I saw, okay, this guy is managed by Abdul Aziz. All right. Kind of like a red flag for a guy that has 8 fights, hasn't really fought. He's got one weird fight in 2021 that we don't even know who this freaking guy is. We have no tape of this fight, but really he hasn't fought in 3 years. Okay. This guy is signed by Abdul Aziz. He's been training at King's MMA for a while. Then when you look at his Instagram a little closer, there's a post where he says something to Dana White and says, how you doing, future boss, or something like that. Then when you look at the comments, he says, I'll be in the UFC soon, or something of that nature. And then right underneath that, you see Abdul Aziz replying, they will recognize soon, or they'll hear about you soon. Something feels like it's special about this kid. I don't know what it is. His tape is not wowing or anything. He's got decent striking. He's got good grappling, but again, we haven't really seen any tape for 3 years on this guy. He might have had huge improvements. He is training with a lot of killers there at King's MMA. And honestly, narrative, I'm not a big narrative guy, but why is Abdul Aziz signing this guy? I mean, he must know or see something, or somebody's told him something about this guy and why he signed this guy. So I do like what I see from Patterson. I don't want to talk about only Sensei. I do like what I see from Patterson. I don't like the fact that he gets taken down pretty easily in a bunch of his tape, but the guy is tough. He's got a nasty, nasty front chokes. Those guillotines, those front chokes are very nasty, very, very long arms. I wouldn't be shocked if he got a submission like that against Sensei, and in his line is, submission prop is pretty big. But man, I didn't take a side here. Something tells me Sensei is going to win here because of all those reasons I mentioned earlier. But I mean, Sam Patterson's a good fighter. He's not a bad fighter. I just think he lacks a little bit when it comes to takedown defense.
All right. Definitely a lot to take in there. A lot of interesting information. Does that sway your opinion, Liam, at all? Or were you already on the underdog side here?
One of the notes I had made here was just that Sensei received his brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a little bit earlier, right? A lot of these guys, they have a lot of parallels. They're the same age, they're basically the same rank in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're both coming up as prospects, both have a lot to prove. So in that sense, it seems like a pretty well-matched fight. And they're kind of picking from two different regions of the world that they'd like to see continue to develop, right? Brazil, classic market for the UFC, been around since the outset, almost always a Brazilian champion in this company at any given time, right? So they love to have new Brazilian talent come in, but we also have seen they're trying to build that UK market. We've seen them, lean into the shows that they're trying to do over there. I noticed just from a narrative standpoint, real quick, John Gooden a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, was promoting this guy, Sam Patterson. He's like, look at this guy, Sam Patterson. He's one of the top up and coming prospects in all of UK. And I really believe in this kid's future. So when you look at the narratives, there are those kind of things a little bit on both sides, but I definitely see what Narco's saying in terms of breeding somebody to be a star, to be a champion, these kind of things. It kind of seems like they're giving him that same look as Charles Oliveira, swear to God, right? Like the guy comes out, he's got the glasses. Did you notice at the weigh-ins, my man takes them off just like Charles, right? So I noticed some of these things, the showmanship that goes into it. And I did think that Sensei was kind of showing some of that. And Patterson's obviously the more well-known guy, but we've seen a couple times, the Brazilians don't really give a fuck if you're a well-known guy. They come in and they mug you anyway. And we saw it last week. I forget the gentleman's name. I picked against him, even though he had some good wins. I mentioned the fact that he beat my guy Vinicius Salvador via finish, and I was impressed. Yeah, and so our boy came through, bigly there and kind of showed, just his level of skill. And I think that the level of skill difference might favor Sensei here. So this is definitely an underdog I'm looking into. I will not be playing the favorite. It's a dog or pass situation for me as of now.
Interesting. You know what? Originally, I was not impressed by Sensei that much. I more so thought there was some stuff to be desired. I thought this was a spot where they're trying to promote a guy in Patterson, a guy who is probably marketable, a guy who, what does he play into the whole McGregor thing? And he's a 6'4" lightweight, like a lot of things that are marketable with this guy. I honestly think he has decent skills as well. And what I'm seeing from Sensei is stuff that could be improved. Is he making those improvement in the 3 years? Is him signing with anybody going to make a difference? I don't know what kind of narrative I want to play on this. And therefore, maybe the line is too wide. I think that the pick is going to remain Patterson. I do think that he is the better mixed martial artist with a huge edge in the striking advantage here. But again, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter how skilled you are. It's how much grit you have. And he does leave his head up there too high. He could be taken down in the spot if Sensei's made big improvements. Patterson's not a perfect fighter. I just do think he has certain advantage in the spot that'll win him this fight. Again, do I want to play minus 250? Probably not. I don't know. It's a really, really tough fight for me. I think it's going to be a great scrap. I'm really looking forward to watching it. However, official pick is going to be Sam Patterson, but with less conviction than I started with. All right, Narco? There you go.
Yeah,
Maybe you shouldn't have said it after all.
I mean, to be honest, Patterson late is probably the lines are not very good. I'm waiting for FanDuel and DraftKings to open them up. But one fight that I have to mention this because it's very important. One fight that really stuck out for Patterson where he showed a lot of dog is the Ahmad Amir fight where it went to split draw. He was getting grapple fucked for 2 rounds and a little portion of the 3rd round. But dude, he put it on that Amir guy for about 4 minutes and beat the shit out of him. And I have no idea how that dude survived, but it was a 10-8 round in the 3rd. And the one thing I will tell you is Sam Patterson has crazy cardio because that fight clearly opened my eyes to his cardio, because he legit was getting grapple fucked for a little over 2 rounds. And somehow he beat the living daylights out of this guy in the 3rd round. The guy survives. But looking at Sensei, this guy's never been to the 3rd round, has not really fought in 3 years. You have to favor Patterson later in this fight. So I have to mention that. I think it's important. If we get a better than 750 line on Patterson round 3, I'm all for it.
All right. We'll have to take a keep an eye on that one. That's for sure. It should be a fun fight nonetheless, but it's going to be more fun than this next one right here. Probably. We do not know how long this next one's going to last. Anyways, we got the 2-0 Bo Nickal. I don't know if you guys heard of this guy, but I heard he's decent. And the 7-1 Donovan Beard. I don't really know much to say about this one. Bo Nickal, minus 400. I tweeted out a couple days ago, how high does this line get? I would not be surprised to see it above minus 5,000. This is a spot where you have one of the most hyped up prospects we've had in memory. Bo Nickal's a guy who is highly touted for very good reason. And although he's only 2-0, you have to think that this is a huge showcase spot. Not only do they give him a fight against a guy who had a decent record, so it looks good, but you gave him a guy, Donovan Beard, whose biggest weakness is his takedown defense, in my opinion. So I think it's Bo Nickal probably living up to that price tag. I don't know if you can physically live up to that price tag, but I think he gets him out of there really, really early on. And Grape Sandy, under 5.5 rounds. Yeah, probably. Under 1.5. I see that. It's a really, really weird fight because how do you bet it? How do you, like, Donovan Beard has nothing to lose, right? He either goes in there, he pulls off one of the biggest statistical comebacks or underdog wins against Bo Nickal, or he loses to Bo Nickal, and everyone expects him to. So should be a quick bout. Everyone expects Bo Nickal to go out there and win early on. I kind of agree. Looking at these odds too, it's a spot where you have what? In round one, he's minus 185, open up plus 175. Unders minus 350 to go under 1.5 rounds. You have to tend to agree. Hot take of the week. I'm taking Bo Nickal to win. All right, Narco, what is your thought on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think they gave him another tailor-made opponent. Like Donovan Beard is. You watch some of this regional tape, and so his last fight against Miles Lee, he wins in the 4th round, but he gets taken down about 15 times prior to the 4th round. Gets absolutely grapple fucked the whole time, and somehow pulls a triangle out of his ass from his back. Raheem Forrest fight where he lost, he got taken down another 10 times. I mean, what's there to say here? Like, Bo Nickal is going to take him down. You could clearly see it on tape. They gave him this guy specifically because he's going to absolutely maul and kill this guy. It's just a matter of how he wins. Is it submission? Is it KO? Maybe submission has a little bit, like, it's plus 185. KO is minus. So maybe that has a little bit of meat on the bone, but I really don't have a play here, honestly. Liam,
this is when you sit back and enjoy, eh? For sure. Yeah. This is one where we call Liam, our jiu-jitsu coach, coming in. Is this a submission win for Bo Nickal, or how do you see this one going down?
You know, trying to parse out how somebody's going to try and finish isn't easy, right? Like, a lot of times it's just difficult to know. But I think we're in for another Bo Nickal sub here, truthfully. And the reason being is twofold. Number one, Donovan Beard is really tough, right? So you got to give credit to these guys that come through. Not every fighter's tough, right? A lot of fighters are good. A lot of fighters are talented. Many of them are not very tough. They get hit, they start to wilt up, right? It's a lot easier to beat somebody's ass than it is to get in a fight, right? So we know a lot of people that are good at ass whipping contests. Donovan Beard is good at fighting. Right? The guy does take a licking and keep coming. He does not get discouraged, right? He seems to have that big smile on his face after every round, no matter how poorly it just went. So the guy seems like he's an optimistic, happy-go-lucky, nice guy. Wish him the best. I actually think, he could beat a lot of guys regionally. He could maybe make it as like one of those backdoor 33-year-old, 34-year-old signings to the UFC. I don't think it's on Tuesday, right? The reason being, Bo Nickal is a real problem. He can take you down in a variety of different ways. He can wrap you up at the legs. He could take you down with a body lock and wrap you up at the chest. Donovan Beard backs himself onto the fence, right? I saw him do it in a number of different fights, in a number of different exchanges, in several of the same fights. And his most recent bout, he basically got taken down that whole fight. The referee started standing them back up because nothing was happening. And then the guy was completely death gassed. He just sold at the end. He was like, he was in that triangle choke for what? Half a second, quarter of a second. Like the fight was over before it had been locked in. The guy was ready to check out. That being said, I don't think Bo Nickal's that guy. He's a consummate competitor. He always has been in wrestling as well as everything else. He's been an extremely high achiever. And Donovan Beard gives up too many bad positions. He was able to work his way out of them against lower level opponents regionally. He was hurt and rocked in a couple of fights and put in chokes in the first 30 seconds. That all screams to me, Bo Nickal round one, Bo Nickal round one sub. He did it the last time. I said the sub was the way last time. I think Bo Nickal round one sub is the way again this time, truthfully. And I wouldn't be stunned if it's a ground and pound finish. If he wraps up a wrist and just throws 50 unanswered strikes or something like that. I think Bo is capable of that. I think Bo is going to get a hold of this guy, put him in bad positions. And I think that if you watch the flow in some of these most recent contests, Beard has had a lot of chances to recover when he makes positional mistakes. It's not like he's not giving up bad positions. He's giving up side control. He's giving up the mount. He's giving up top half. He's giving up a ton of bad positions. He's giving up the front headlock. He's giving up dart choke position. He's giving you every look you'd want if you're trying to submit him. But these guys are going in slow motion, and it gives him a chance to get back up. I don't think Bo's going in slow motion. I think he's going to do what he did the other guy. As soon as he finds one good position, he's going to lock onto it. He's never going to let go, and the fight will be over shortly thereafter.
That has to be it. And I know these aren't really hot takes, but it's Bo Nickal fight. He's minus 4,000, and for very good reason, in my opinion. Now, there are a couple questions before I let you guys go. How high do you think this line goes, first of all?
I can tell you it was minus 1,800 on reference earlier, and it's now minus 4,000. So if that's any indication. The market width is very high here. You can see it goes from minus 1,408 to minus 4,000 on the sharp markets. A lot of books, some of the more respected domestic books, in my opinion, were holding minus 2,500 all day. Vegas, when I checked earlier, was yet to open a full market. So as Narco can give any comments he'd like, I'm going to check and just see if Vegas has opened the market yet.
Any thoughts on how? There you go.
Yeah, I mean, 4,000 already. Can he go any higher? I mean, Jesus Christ. It's one of the biggest lines I've ever seen. And I guess it can go to, wasn't it minus 10,000 last time or some crazy number? I think it was on Bo Nickal.
By close, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, it might hit that. I mean, it really might. It might go to 10,000 on this guy because he's honestly, I mean, come on. Outside of an injury, he's not going to lose this fight. I mean, UFC is not stupid, dude. Like they need this guy in the UFC, and this is the calling card right here. This fight, he's not going to pass on him this time. I promise you. It's going to be a beatdown. It's going to say, "Here's your UFC contract. Let's go." You know, so
that's. Hey, you're right. I completely agree with that. All right, we'll let you guys get out of here. Right before we do, a couple things to ask from you guys. I'm going to get these guys to give you their quick picks and predictions, maybe a little parlay if they got that upper mushroom. But before we do that, like button down below, subscribe to the channel. I'll give mine first. I think pick-wise, I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm chalk heavy this time. I'm going to go with Estevan. I'm going to go with Jenkins. I'm going to go with Patterson, and I'm going to go Nickal. It's not very pretty. I think there's more value in the prop market, and that's where I'm going to go for my parlay for Mr. Mushroom here. We're going to take Nickal by sub. We're going to take the under in the very first fight of the night, and we're going to take the over in this one right there, plus 605. If you want any more juice, I also like Jenkins by KO right there. There's mine. Look at that one. Kind of pretty, right? If you got those ready, I'd love to hear them. Narco, you got any of those ready?
I actually don't, but I can give you what I like here. I'm gonna go with a unpopular one in Joa Elias, the underdog. I'm gonna take the under 2.5 in the Ajim Mendonca. I'm going to take the other one that I think is a little bit crazy is fight goes to this. Oh, I'm sorry, over. Let's go over 1.5 in Sensei Patterson at minus 125. And screw it. Let's go Bo Nickal by submission. I'm going to listen to my boy Liam there.
Almost plus 2,000 on that one right there. And quick picks wise, I know you got more underdogs than I do. Is that true?
The quick picks for me would be Bo Nickal, obviously. I'm going to side with Sensei here. Just some vibes giving me that. I like Jack Jenkins. Most likely there, Joa Elias and Mendonca.
Awesome. Liam, what about yourself, my friend?
All right, guys, just so you know, my last article for the Action Network season of Contender series is coming up tomorrow. So you will get my full reads there. But as of right now, if you put a gun to my head now and said, Liam, tell me the side for these fights, my personal opinion, Mendonca, Estevan, Jenkins, Sensei, Nickal. That's what I'm going with. That Linares Jenkins one doesn't feel good.
All right,
now, that being said, I do have a parlay for you, and I already have this one pulled up. So if you want to be conservative, and I mean conservative by, plus 2,000 parlay standards, right? Mendonca by sub and Estevez by sub, and you just leave it there because Bo Nickal could easily TKO this guy. That gives you plus 2,500. You're working with a nice number. Now, if you add that Bo Nickal sub, you're at plus 7,000. You're having a party. You're buying a boat. It belongs on Lambo plays. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we can really make something happen if you add the Bo Nickal sub. But that's how I feel. It's the hashtag Stop Brazilian Hate and Bo Nickal sub parlay of the week.
I absolutely love it. And I really look forward to that article you have coming out tomorrow. Always great. I'll definitely be sure to tune into that. But that's going to do it for here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Again, all the information for the guests is in the description down below. But let's hear from them because I know Narco's got somewhere to go any minute now. Narco, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me, NarcoCop, on Twitter, NarcoCop MMA for my YouTube channel. And I will be joining, what's that channel called? Pub Sports Radio. Sorry. Pub Sports Radio with Die Hard MMA, Clint. I will be joining him in roughly 7 minutes. So, yeah. And then every Friday, I have my Lambo Plays podcast on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. I'll let you get to that one shortly here. Liam, where can they find you?
Absolutely. Just want to shout out my man today, Delphi Commish. The guy has gone 13-2 so far this week on NFL sides. He just produces insane numbers. So check out at Delphi Sports, at Delphi Commish in particular. Just an absolute killer in 3 major markets. So wanted to give my man some love today. You can find me everywhere at LiamPicksFights, guys. You know that. Writing for a lot of places, talking for a lot of places, including Pub Sports Radio. So come hear me chat shit with the boys live during the fights. Come hear me and my thoughts pre-fight at LiamPicksFights for everything you need. Find me on Twitter. I post everything there.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys always for joining me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys coming on. I think it's going to be a really fun card, and it has been so much fun talking fights all throughout the 10 weeks here, Dana White Contender Series. And thank you everybody else out tuning in, smashing the like button, hopefully down below. And that's going to do it, guys. 10 weeks, 10 Dana White Contender Series cards. Lots of fun. Hopefully some money made on this side. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And with that, let's make some money, guys.